parents, welcome back to this week's edition of the School Psychologist vlog. This week, following up again on our How to Talk So Kids Will Listen and Listen So Kids Will Talk book that I've been working with you guys on or telling you about for the past few weeks. One of the things that I found as a parent most helpful is how to encourage independence within your child, or autonomy is another word to put it. So how do we encourage that for our children, especially at this precarious age that they're at, that they have lots of questions, they have lots of thoughts, they have lots of feelings, and they also have a ton of impulses. Their frontal lobe, again, really isn't working, so they don't always stop and think things through. However, one of the things I often see too is people constantly save their children. And we have to stop doing that, which is really hard as a parent. I've talked to you guys over time is sometimes allowing your child to fail, having natural consequences, but being there to support them through that. It's a really good skill to learn, that you have to learn from your mistakes. If you don't make mistakes, you're never going to learn. Things are going to be always easy for you. And then when all of a sudden you do have to work, you're not going to have the skill set to know what to do to solve the problem. So this really is building problem-solving skills, giving your child that independence to work through problems in a variety of different ways, with you there still overseeing, but not so guiding and not solving the problem for them. So for the first thing you want to do is you do want to let your kids make choices. There are going to be some things that they don't have choices about. Maybe curfew, how long they play on Fortnite, or any video game, taking medicine, eating dinner. There are definitely choices about that they can make, and then there's going to be choices that are not optional. And that's really, as a parent, you have to think about. I always think about, is it going to impact their livelihood? Failing a class is not going to impact their living being. It's going to hurt, and they hopefully won't do it again. But if you think about kind of those legal, lawful choices, you think about kind of those top echelon of rules that you have in the house. Electronic time, TV time, reading books, things such as that. You really want to set those. You want to set those expectations right up front. But what are some things that kids are going to have choices about? Maybe you're a family like mine. I eat some very weird things to some people. To me, it's normal. Lots of fruits and veggies, and I like to try different spices and whatnot. I know I have to have certain things there, so my husband and my son will eat. But there are times that I know that I'm cooking something with some spices that an 11-year-old probably is not going to like. I don't make a second dinner for him. However, he's learned how to cook. There are definitely some things that are in the house that if I'm cooking something that I know that he does not like, or if it's a busy night, we have lots of things after school or anything like that. We have things that you can grab and go that are like sandwiches or yogurts and things like that. So maybe you have choices about dinner time and what they're going to eat, but we are all going to eat at the same time. Choices about when homework is going to be or who they're going to hang out with. You also want to show respect for your child's struggle. They are going to struggle at times with different things, whether it be with friends, whether it be academics, whether it be with expectations that are put on them, whether it be with organization. They are going to struggle with things, and it's okay to allow them to struggle. Because think about a project that you've ever had, or anything that you've worked really hard to accomplish, and all of a sudden you accomplish that sense of self that you have and how good that makes you feel. We want to develop that. And it's okay to say, listen, this is hard for you. How, that how word that we talked about over the past few months, how can I help you? How can we do this together? Stop asking so many questions. That was a hard one for me as a parent, but sometimes think of yourself when you come home. Do you want to be bombarded with 104 questions? When is dinner? What's going to be for dinner? Why isn't the laundry done? Is the shirt washed yet? The cat puked over here, or the dog did this over there, and so on and so forth. Instead of bombarding your kid with a ton of questions when you see them, simply say, hey, it's good to see you. Hey, it's nice to see you. Welcome home. Start with that first. And then let them take a breather. Let them take a breather. And then, after a few minutes, you can say, do you want to talk about school today? Like what happened in school? So sometimes that will help them come around and start talking to you more. You also want to stop answering all their questions right away, especially now that they're 11, 12, 13, 14 years old. If they ask you a question, that is a good question. They obviously want to know, how can we find that answer out? We have Google and YouTube. So how do we find, we used to go to encyclopedias. How do you find out that information? Maybe you do an experiment together. So when the kids ask a question that is information seeking, help them figure out how to find out that answer, because that is a really good skill. In my job, I do get asked questions that I don't know the answers to, or I may be doing an assessment that all of a sudden I get this odd profile to. I just don't sit here and be like, well. I have a bunch of resource books that I use. I also have people that I might network with and kind of talk things through. So it might be part of a conversation that you're learning together. That is also includes, not answering the question, using resources outside of the home as well. The kids are interested, maybe they're starting to explore what they want to do after high school or maybe as a job. So definitely thinking about how you can incorporate our community as part of finding out their answers. And don't take away hope. There are definitely some things, I look at some kids and they'll be like, I'm going to be this. And I'm kind of sometimes sitting there going, okay, but, I don't ever want to take away that hope because they're 11, 12, 13 years old. I'm sure many of us haven't figured out what we want to be when we grow up. I was older when I actually went back for my master's degree to become a guidance counselor and a school psychologist, because when I got my bachelor's, I had no idea what I wanted to do in the world. So because nobody closed off and told me I couldn't do something, Lord help them if they ever told me I couldn't do something. I usually found a way to do it. But definitely help them build that skills to problem solve and figure out a way to accomplish that. And sometimes it might take longer and it might take more work than somebody else, but that's okay, because obviously you're accomplishing something and helping your child accomplish something that they're going to feel good about. So, again, thinking about those things and, trying not to take over. Those are just a few ideas. Offering choices, definitely show respect to your child's feeling and the struggle they have. Encourage those sources outside the home, and how do we figure out these are all going to develop that independence that we're looking for, and how they're going to accomplish things. One of the things I often hear being next to the office, that I've said this before, how many kids come in late. And a lot of kids are like, my mom didn't wake me up in time, or my dad didn't wake me up in time. At this point, and I think we talked about this in one of the earlier videos, how are you going to solve this problem? You can either get an alarm clock or you can wake up on your own. And we know they're not going to wake up on their own. So instead of having you constantly wake them up, how do you get an alarm clock to do this? I don't like eggs. I'm tired of cold cereal. I'm not going to eat breakfast anymore. We know that breakfast is one of the most important meals of the day. There are different people who believe in different things as well around that, and fasting and whatnot. But again, if they're not going to eat what you cook, I would not cook them an entirely separate meal. This is where, okay, how are you going to solve this problem? The kid right now, this time of year, I have kids walking in shivering. Well, my mom didn't tell me to wear a coat. It was 20 below zero outside, and we had a 2-hour delay because it was too cold. We need coat. Look at the temperature. Turn on the news. Step outside for a moment and see what happens. So, giving the kids the choices about how they're going to, instead of just saying, yes, you need a coat, and they're middle schoolers and they like to not wear coats. I don't know why, but as a parent, you may say, no, you are going to wear a coat. As a parent, that may not be a bother to you, and it's a natural consequence, and that's okay too. Some kids might be starting to save their allowance for something that's just outlandish, like a horse or a mansion. Again, even though you're like, I live in an apartment, we can't have a horse, or yeah, we're not going to be saving for a mansion. Giving the kids that idea, there's something called the envelope system, where people basically they take envelopes. I don't know if they do it much anymore. I know my grandmother did this before, like lots of all the banking accounts and credit cards and everything, but she would have different envelopes of different things she wanted to purchase, and she would save the money and put the money into envelopes. People nowadays do that with bank accounts. They open up separate bank accounts for things that they're saving for, because people don't keep dollar bills and whatnot in their houses anymore. If your child wants to save for something, support them on that. How are they going to save that? How much are they going to save each week? Are they going to do extra jobs for that? And then at some point, the child may realize, I am never going to get a horse. And they may want to use the money for something else. Now, using the horse as an example, maybe your kid gets into, decides, I've saved enough money for a horse. Again, you may not have the means to have a horse in your yard, but, there are some great stables here in Concord. There's even a horse riding club, an equestrian club at Concord High School. So even though they don't have their own personal horse, maybe this money is used for lessons or to help take care of a horse or to be a part of the equestrian club. So again, this is kind of where you don't squash those dreams and you help them problem solve. That even though their big goal isn't met right away, but who's to say that once they graduate from high school, they don't continue saving and eventually they do get their own horse, which I think would be totally awesome and good for them. So I hope you've enjoyed this little topic this week, and I will see you all soon.